Okay, so everyone, thank you very much for joining us tonight and for making an effort to be on the call. Tonight we're going to be speaking about a couple of things, a couple of issues, which is going to be the, what is knowing? How do we know that we are in our knowing, and, as opposed to belief? And we're also going to be discussing discernment, because that's really important. We're going to be doing a couple of exercises just so that we can get a feel of what, how that feels like, unless, I'm sure a lot of you already are doing that. You already have that ability to detect what is a knowing, what is a belief. But for those of us that don't really know yet, that would be a good way to detect that. How do you know that you're, coming from the absolute truth with a capital T versus something that is a little t that can be manipulated and infiltrated. So that's important. What I'd like to do also is kind of like revisit what we did last week, because it's all connected. It's all intertwined. You can't have one piece of this without, having the other pieces. And it's really, really important that if you're all making the effort and you are making an just unbelievable effort to be on a call, and it's a Saturday night, a lot of us may want to do something else perhaps, but you're making the choice of being here and getting information that is going to edify you. So, if I'm making, the effort to be on this call, I really, really appreciate you guys being on the call as well, because it's really ultimately for you. The more of us that can be empowered this way, then perhaps we can really affect the world, even if it's three of us that really get it and are actually doing it well, okay? So what I'd like to do is to try to do the exercise again, and it's really important, I'm going to just reiterate this, that because we're making the effort of being on the call, that you don't lose the I can only give you the information which is going to go into your intellect, and it's up to you to bring it forth. In other words, it's up to you to manifest it and embrace it and make it part of you. I can't do that for you, okay? I can only tell you, okay, these are the steps. This is how it feels like. This is what it looks like. Let's experience it together by doing an exercise. And this is what it's supposed to, the end result is this if you do it right, okay, if you do it. It only happens when it's second nature to you, and second nature happens when you're practicing it, and I can't make you practice it. That has to come from you, a burning desire of getting it perfected. So I'm leaving that up to you guys, that you are actually using the tools. It won't happen magically. And the worst thing that would happen is that you had all this knowledge and you had the opportunity to practice and make it perfect, make it your own, and then the chance of or an experience happens that you need to use it, and it doesn't work for you because it's not it's not part of you, it's not part of your makeup, your being. It has to be part of your being, and you've got to know this with your eyes closed, that it's absolute certainty. So the only way to have that happen again is practice, 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 practice. I can't even emphasize that enough. Okay, but that comes with total trust that I know you are going to do that, should you decide to do that. Okay, all right. So what I'd like to start with is getting into that heart space again. Okay, because everything comes from that connection. Everything. Okay, nothing occurs without that. And if not, you're in the realm of the matrix. We don't want to be functioning from the realm of the matrix anymore. We want to be coming from the highest power possible and be imbued and infused with that, empowered with that. So we are always in our own authority, okay? Because we have the right to do that. That is our inheritance because we are divine beings. So let's start doing that. We're going to start with being in our head again. You can close your eyes. And we're going to do this quickly because we want to go to that heart space as quickly as we can. So we just want to experience what it's like coming down that elevator, let's make believe that we're that little point of light, and we're in that center space, right, where our third eye is, all the way into the center of the head between the two ears, where the pineal gland might be. We're going to be looking at the world from as we're that little bright little dot of light peering out from that point. Okay, so that's our perspective. That's where we're looking from. And now we're going to start coming down as if we're in the elevator, coming down. We're going to pass our eyes. We're going to come down and see the nose, so we're going to feel the nose. We're looking at the world through as if we're looking at from the nose. We're going to feel that little hard bridge on our nose. We can see the nostrils. Okay, we're going to keep going down. We're going to be passing by where our teeth might be, our lips, our tongue. We're the tongue now. Okay, we're the bottom lip. We're going to keep going down. Now we're in the chin area, so there's like some soft tissue there, but there's also that bony area. Okay, I feel that. Okay, keep going down. We're going to start going down and feel the throat coming in, and we're going to land in our throat. Some probably soft tissue there. Now we're going to keep going down. We're going to go to our heart area, and we're going to pass this membrane. Okay, just keep going to the heart, and we're going to start feeling this, the toroid, that vortex. It's going to be going around and around, and we're going to fall into it. Now we're going to turn into a leaf, okay? So let's just do that. So we're from the point of light, we're going to be a leaf now. Let's pretend we're a leaf, and we see that we're looking down from being that leaf. We're looking down, and we see this whirlpool of like a vortex, right, going around and around into the heart area, and we're just going to keep going down, and we're going to kind of let go and drop into that, and we're going to be going around and around. You know how as if you're in the outer portion of the vortex, you're just going to be lazily spinning around until you start getting closer to the center of that vortex. And now you're spinning quicker. You're going to go quicker into that. And all of a sudden you're going to be sucked into that hole. Okay, now you're into that hole. You're falling. You're falling to the hole. Everything is spinning around you, spinning around you, spinning around you. All of a sudden you just fall into this space where there's just nothing. It's just emptiness. It's stillness. You're in the heart, in the center of the heart where there's just nothing. Now with your intuition, find that little tiny space that is the Holy of Holies. And you'll know when you're there because you'll feel that feeling. You're full, you're complete, you're in joy. You'll find it. Just be still and search it. And when you feel that feeling, you feel that you're home. Just go through that. Just go through that little hole. And now come out the other side and bask in that. Bask in that love, in that pure energy, in the purest of all wisdom, all knowledge, all creation. Be all that is. You're right there. And be one with that. Just let go and allow. Now, if you can, from that space, pay attention to your right ear. And see if you hear a very, very faint sound that might sound like a little whistle or high-pitched noise, but it's very faint. And follow that. Just listen to it. So now you're in both places. You're listening to the sound current, and you're in that Holy of Holies. And I want you to feel your heart expand. And feel gratitude for everything you have and everything you've experienced in your life, regardless of whether it's negative, whether it's been positive. They're all experiences that have helped you be who you are today. And be in awe that you're one with the Creator. And in that space, allow the original blueprint of you, which is total perfection. Replace anything that is not in alignment with that right now. And if you feel that it has happened, say amen in your head. Say amen and thank it for allowing it to be so. That now you're complete. That you're whole again. Feel the love. Just know for a fact that all your needs are met, that your healings are done, that anything that needs to be mended has been mended. Anything you need to know will be given to you. And so it is. Now, just because we're going to move on to something else doesn't mean you're leaving that space. You leave that open, that your connection is always open. You stay in that heart space as long as you can throughout this call. That's your connection with Source Creator. What is knowing? Knowing is what you're experiencing now. Knowing is the ability to get all the information that you need directly from the source of that information. Just the Creator that's created everything. All the multiverses, all those that create universes, all those that create worlds, and all those that serve the light God. So when you're in that space continuously, and you build a bridge to that space by using mantras like the Kadosh mantra, for example, you will always be able to tap into that knowledge, into that creative power, into the inspiration that is of God's source, into that divine power and authority that is God's source, that is inherently yours as well. So knowing is absolute certainty that what you know is true. It's not a belief. It is unmalleable. It is unchanging. It is absolute, unwavering, solid truth with a capital T. Belief, on the other hand, is something that can be true today and may not be true for you tomorrow. So it changes. So you may have a belief that a Republican Party is the best party for you, and then maybe a year or two from now you change your mind because you learned something different, and now you are of the belief that the Democratic Party is the better party. Okay, so it will change. Knowing doesn't change. Knowing is absolute certainty always. And it comes from experience, okay, with whatever it is that you know. And it is a prerequisite for manifesting anything. You know, whether manifesting peace in the world, whether you're manifesting abundance for yourself, if you want to manifest positive and wonderful relationships or health or whatever. That's the prerequisite to be able to do that. What it is not is that you cannot come, you can't be in a space of knowing if you're coming with an indecision. If you're being indecisive, that will hinder knowing. If you are coming from insecurity or doubt, okay, it will hinder a knowing. It has to be a sense of commitment. You're committed. It's again, because it comes from certainty. So you are absolutely committed to what you're getting, the information you're getting. You cannot come from skepticism or cynicism, and definitely not uncertainty. It can come from uncertainty for sure. So, approaching knowing, what you have to come from a sense of being in authority. Okay, so you're in absolute authority of what is coming to you. You're coming from strength, not from doubt. Definitely, it's the opposite. It's definitely from strength, and you're coming from power because you're. And the reason I'm saying you're coming from authority, from strength, and from power is because the only way to really experience knowing is really by connecting directly with Creator. And the knowing that I'm speaking of here, of course, it's the spiritual knowing, because you can have knowing in this world too, through experiencing the world. So when you experience knowing, you are in a state of composure and inner peace. And for example, when you are going to turn on a faucet, and for like an infinitesimal little moment in time, you're going to be thinking about it for 2 seconds maybe. You're going to say, okay, I'm going to turn on the faucet, and because you've done it so many times, you kind of, do it like as a second nature thing. But at the same time, you kind of like imagine, okay, I'm going to turn on the faucet, the water's going to come out, and I'm going to put my cup in there, or I'm going to wash a dish or whatever. So for like maybe a nanosecond, you're kind of imagining how it's going to look. Okay. So, and then you turn it on, and the water comes out pretty much the way you thought. Okay. So you're not in shock that it happened, right? You're not in surprise, and you had no doubt. So you were total composure. It's like a no big deal, It's second nature. Okay, you expect it. So you turn on the water, it comes out. You knew exactly the way it was going to turn out because you've done it so many times. So that is the feeling. It's this knowing gives you peace. It gives you composure. There's nothing to think about. The head is not in the way. There's nothing to think about. You don't have to think about, for example, that the water had to be in a power plant, right? And you don't have to think about, well, what was the water, where was it before it got to the power plant? And what was put on the water, what kind of chemicals were put in there, and what pipes had to bring it to my house, and how many square feet per, inches and pressure had to be, in effect so that it could come out through the pipeline, so it could come in through the spigot and come out. I mean, you're not thinking about all that, right? And so knowing is the same thing. It's just, okay, so you don't have to worry about all the things that happen, all the details that happen on the behind the scenes. You just know that when you turn on the faucet, it's going to be out. It's going to come out. Okay, so when you visualize something and you expect it to come out a certain way, what you need to do is then, practice. Well, how do you feel? How does that feel? Does it feel, well, do you feel confident that when you were thinking about the water coming out in a certain way, you turned it on and gushed out exactly the same way you thought? Do you feel confident now? That of course you do, because you expected it. You feel reassured. You feel trusting. You trust that it's going to happen the same way that you envisioned it. So again, because you were expecting it to be that way. So what I would like you to do, even though you're still hopefully in that heart space, you shouldn't have to be removed from that to do anything, because you're always going to be there. That's the whole point, is to connect to Source and always stay in that heart space regardless of what you're doing, regardless of whether you're working, regardless of whether you're going out to dinner with friends. It doesn't matter. You're always there. Okay? Because any time that you close your eyes, you're going to practice it so often that you're going to actually come in and be able to find that tiny space and go into it immediately. All the going into the head and coming down that elevator and all that, that's just so you can experience what, from the point of view, what different points of view feel like. Once you get into that heart space, you're there. And you can always connect there, because you'll know how to find it, because it's your intuition and it's that feeling of being home. So we're still home, in home with a capital H, okay, while we do other exercises, because we can be in multi places in, one time, because we're divine beings. We can do that. Okay, so what we're going to do is, if you look around you, if you're sitting by a desk or a table or something like that, if you have an item like maybe a pencil, maybe a quarter, penny, or something that's a little heavy but not too heavy, that if you had to drop it, it's not going to break, and it won't break the surface that it lands on. So find something around you that when you let it go and you drop it, it won't break and it will make a sound. Okay, when you identify what that item is, okay, we're going to raise our hand with that item in our hand and raise it to a point where it's, enough that it will fall. And when it falls, it's going to make a sound. Okay, so you don't want to put it too far, because the thing, when it hits, it probably will bounce off somewhere if it's small enough. So you want to just do it enough so that to get the idea, okay, of how this feels. All right, and also make sure that the surface that it's going to land on is not glass or something like that, so that doesn't crack or break or something. So you might experience, for example, when you let go of the item, if it's going to fall maybe on the floor, if you're sitting on the floor, I want you to think about, imagine, or visualize the actual process of letting go of that item. Okay, you're going to visualize letting go of it, and it's going to obviously make a journey from your hand to the surface. And imagine how long that journey is going to take before it hits the surface. Well, how long is it? Is it going to be a second? It's going to be like a release and then clink. You hear the clink immediately, or is it going to be a little longer? What is it going to sound if it falls on the floor and it's rug? Okay, if it's rug, it's going to probably make a thud sound. It's probably not even going to. You're probably not even going to hear it. Maybe it's going to be thud, Or if it's hitting a wooden floor, it'll make a little bit more of a sound. So visualize in your mind here what that item which you have in your hand, based on experience with this item, what this is going to sound like and feel like once it drops and hits the surface. Okay, so close your eyes and just, keep your hand up, and don't release the item yet. Just keep your eyes closed and keep your hand up, and just visualize as if you were releasing that item, and now it's falling and it hits the surface of wherever surface you've picked. Okay, what does that sound like? What does that feel like in your mind? Okay, and when I count to 3, you're actually going to drop it. Okay, so we're going to say 1, 2, 3. Drop it. Okay. Now, did the actual manifestation of what you just did, does it compare to your visualization of it? Did what you visualize meet the expectation of the way it came out? That's what you need to ask yourselves. How many of you think that it did? Anyone? Mm-hmm. So, in other words, when you visualized it, did it actually manifest the way you envisioned it? In terms of the sound, in terms of the feel of it, how long it took from it being released from your hand to hitting the surface. Anyone want to share?
I made a mistake. I dropped it twice. The first time I dropped it, it made a little bit different sound, and the second time I dropped it, I thought we were supposed to drop it the first time you said to drop it.
It's okay.
So I did it wrong, but it did sound a little bit different the second time. I could tell that.
Okay. What I'm trying to find out is did you when you actually did the exercise of visualizing it in your mind,
mm-hmm.
did it kind of come close to when you actually did it, whether it was the first or second time, it doesn't matter?
Oh, yeah, because it's a tool I use all the time, so I'm
okay,
pretty
so you're familiar with the tool, and you're familiar with the way and its density and the way it feels. Okay.
Yeah.
So the purpose of this little experiment is to allow you to understand that you can visualize something and you know the outcome of it because you've experienced it before,
mm-hmm.
more than likely. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you used a penny, for example, you know what a penny feels like. You know how much it weighs. You know that if you drop it, let's say on a wooden desk, you kind of know what that's going to feel like and how it's going to sound. You kind of know the outcome. So that's the know. That's
mm-hmm.
kind of like a knowing. Although it's in third-dimensional information that you're getting, because other things could, influence the outcome, okay? But in the perfect world, if you drop that penny continuously from the same spot on the same type of surface, it probably will land the same way and make the same sound, with the exception, of course, that there are other things influencing it, like, instead of dropping on the surface, it bounces off and hits a lamp or hits the lamp or hits a paper clip or something, So assuming that everything is perfect, that there's nothing else influencing it, it'll do the same thing all the time. Okay. Let's do, for example, let's try, if you guys are sitting next to a lamp or are next to the light switch of the room, for example, if you can. I mean, maybe you don't have that ability. Maybe you're sitting in a car, okay? And even if you are, you can turn the light off, turn the light on in the car inside. Okay, so the whole point is that what I would like you to do is, if the light is on in your room, what you're going to do is you're going to visualize turning that light switch off. So if it's a lamp next to you, you're going to either pull the little chain or hit the little switch. If it's the light switch on the wall, you're going to, turn the light off. Okay, so click it down or whatever it is. Maybe it's going up. I don't know. Whatever it is that it is, the opposite, to turn the light off. So just visualize that in your mind for a second of what that's going to look like when you do that. right? So there's nothing really to think about. You know that you've done that a million times, and the result is the same all the time, right? So now go ahead and actually do that. Turn off the light. Okay, and you can turn it back on. And I just wanted to make sure that you understand that exactly the way you visualized it is exactly the way it turned out, because you've done it so many times. It's second nature to you. You don't even think about it. Do you have to stop and think where that electricity comes from and how it gets into your house and how many, amps you have to have or how many wattages or whatever it is, whatever that is, volts? I'm not even sure what that is, but do you have to even think about what the light bulb, what kind of resistance it has to have and all that stuff to be able to produce light or turn off the light? You don't. What happens in the back end, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that you get the same result all the time, assuming that you've paid your light bill. If you turned on the light, that paid the light bill, or when you turn off the light, you don't have to worry about it because you already know the light is on. All you're doing is turning it off, right? Assuming everything stays the same, that you're going to get the same result all the time. So it's a knowing. So you walk into a dark room and you're turning on the light switch, you don't have to think about it. It's a knowing, okay? If you happen to have a piece of paper around you, one that you don't need, like maybe one of these coupons that you get in the mail or something like that, just pull it out, or a piece of paper that may be a scrap piece of paper or a copy paper or something that you don't really care about because we're going to do an exercise with the paper. We're going to rip it. So make sure that it's not something that you need, and then you ripped it. So obviously you're not going to do that, but just find something that you don't really care about and that it's kind of large enough so that you can rip it in half. And what we're going to do is just hold the paper in your hand and just close your eyes and visualize that you're ripping the paper in half. But you're going to do that real slowly. Okay, so visualize it, ripping it real slowly, and just feel what that feels like. What does that feel like to rip it slowly? Just visualize it. Don't do it. And just what kind of sound does it make when you're ripping it slowly? And then once you're done ripping it all the way through, I want you to visualize that you have two pieces of paper in your hand. Okay? This is very simple, very simple exercise. But again, I'm just trying to make you understand what this knowing is. So now we're going to actually do that. I'm going to count to 3. And you're actually going to rip the paper in half very slowly and just listen for the sound and the feel. And then actually you're going to end up with 2 pieces of paper at the end. Okay, you ready? 1, 2, 3. Okay, everybody done? All right, so you don't have to answer me or anything, but did it match kind of, sort of, very close, if not identical, to what you visualized?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You didn't have to think about it. It was a knowing because you have experience with maybe that type of paper. If it was maybe a newspaper, you kind of know what it feels to tear a newspaper. What that feels like, the whole feel, the whole sound behind it, the whole experience you're familiar with. If it's a different type of paper, for example, if it's cardboard, it has a totally different experience, right, than maybe copy paper. So whatever paper you chose, if you visualized it correctly, you would know immediately that this is the way it's supposed to sound, it's supposed to look, and the way it's supposed to feel. Okay, that it was your knowing about that experience. Because, again, you've experienced it before, right? So that is the point of these simple exercises that kind of look, okay, well, why are you doing these ridiculous exercises? Because I just want you to understand how that feels, because we take it for granted. Every day we're in our knowing, every day, but we don't call it that because it's what we call second nature, right? It's second nature. Well, what do I even have to think about or pay attention to what this sounds like? okay, because I'm just trying to make a point, okay? That's all that I'm trying to do. So you expect those results, right? You expect those results because you already have experience with it. Okay, so unless you're experiencing it firsthand, unless you have experiences with certain knowledge firsthand, for example, then it's a belief that could change depending on new information that's introduced. Okay, but when it's a knowing, you know it firsthand. So you expect the same result, and it's absolute certainty that it's going to result in the same way all the time. You can then now, with your own, with your own time and leisure, or whatever you have the moment to do that, do these exercises on your own, and you can try it with the water faucet if you want. Just again, it's practice. I'm just getting you to practice and practice and practice. Do it with the water faucet, right before you turn on a water faucet, whether you're going to brush your teeth or just get a cup of water, or whatever it is that you're going to do with the water faucet. Just before you do that, just take a moment and just visualize it. How is this going to sound like? What is this going to feel like? Okay? Just visualize the whole process of doing it before you actually do it, and then do it. And watch how it matches. And you get that aha moment. It's like, oh, yeah, well, of course. You expected it. It's the knowing. Do it with maybe a pot of boiling water. Put some water in a pot and, put it, before you put it on high and do all that, do the visualization. How is this going to look? Okay, based on the fact that I'm putting it on high and it's got X amount of water in the pot, how quickly is it going to boil, and how is it going to look? How is that water going to be agitated? How quickly will it agitate, and how much will it agitate? And then do it and see how it matches. Do the same thing maybe with an ice cube. Okay, just pick up an ice cube and wet your fingers, but before you do that, visualize doing that. Visualize picking up an ice cube, wetting your fingers, and then touching the ice cube. How does that feel? Does it get stuck to you? Does it sting? How does that feel? And actually do it. And how does it match? It should be exactly the way you visualized it. Okay? And any other ideas? Even sitting on a chair or a couch. Assuming everything is the same. Assuming everything is the same, that your floor is not going to cave in on you, or something like that. And the chair is okay, or the sofa is okay. And go ahead and visualize sitting on a couch and having it hold your weight. Well, you've done it a million times. You know that it does. Well, just visualize it and practice it, because that knowing is that it's like a certainty. And when you feel that certainty, it's almost like it's like a check. That when you get into a tiny space and you feel that moment, it's absolute certainty that you're there. It's the same thing. It's almost like it clicks. It's like, yeah, I know it. It's certain. It's for sure. It's a truth. It's expected. It's like, check. It's like you turn on the light switch and it's like, bing, it turns on. No wonder. Of course, you've done it a million times. Bing. So it's the same feeling. It's like almost like a bing, like a little ding, a check mark. It's done. So that's the reason I'm having you do this, so that you can get that ding sound, that little feeling that it's a done deal. Unequivocally, it's done. There's no other outcome. Okay? You're going to sit on the couch. It's going to hold you. You visualize that, and then you do it. It's ding. Of course, it did it. Of course, it did it. Because you knew it, right? So that's the whole purpose of this. It sounds really very basic, and you kind of figure, well, why are we doing this? That's because I want you to get into that feeling, so that when you have a real knowing, you experience the ding feeling. Okay, it's like, okay, well, we're going to have to coin that phrase now. Okay, so. You're going to practice this over and over again until you actually trust your intuition. You trust that you're feeling a knowing, that you're actually getting a knowing. Okay, that's where I want you to be, trusting your intuition of certain things, and and what that feels like. Okay. Then the other reason we want knowing is, not only for anything else, to understand what knowing is, and experiencing that in this world. But it's so that you can identify the experiences with the higher realms, okay? Because that is where you're going to be able to eventually discern here. So if you don't know what is truth, as given into the world and those realms of illumined, light and truth, then how would you know what is truth here? See? So you're going to be able to know what is the truth coming from those realms. And a lot of that is triggered. So you're going to be getting, for example, when you're in that heart space and you're meditating and you're connecting into that tiny spot, that sacred spot, that holy of holies, okay, when you're in that and they're basking in there and you're being in awe and allowing, okay, you're coming in as an empty vessel to be filled with no expectations and in total humility. Okay, you're just there, one with Creator and allowing. So eventually you're going to be getting communication. And it's not going to be some old man in a beard coming and talking to you. So you're going to be getting a lot of information, downloads, inspiration, all kinds of things. It comes in different ways. So at some point in time, okay, you may not remember the experience. You may come out of the experience. Maybe you're meditating for an hour. Maybe you're meditating for 5 hours. It depends on you, what you want to do, or how much of it you need. But when you come out of it, you might say, oh, I didn't have any experiences. I didn't see solar systems being, birthed and stars being birthed and all this galaxies. I didn't see masters. I didn't see anything. It was just very quiet. I was basking. Fine. That's great. But along the line, maybe during your week, maybe during a month, it doesn't matter when. There's no time, okay? Something might happen. Somebody might say something to you, or you might have an experience and, boom, it triggers a memory of an incident, of a communication that happened, of information that you didn't have before, and that comes in as a knowing, that it's absolute certainty that it happened, that it was given to you, that you didn't have before. There was no way you could have known it before. You didn't read it anywhere. It's not even a subject matter you're even interested in, but you know about this information. And how did you know about that? Well, it could have happened that you got that information maybe a couple of months ago when you did a meditation, or in your sleep. You could have been sleeping and you could have been in your light body traveling and doing work on the other side, and it triggered that memory. So that's a knowing. Okay, so there's absolute unequivocally that you know this information, that you didn't know it prior to a certain, maybe before. Okay, so you picked it up somewhere. The other thing is that you're going to have lucid experiences, lucid dreaming, for example. That it's like, okay, I'm remembering this. That is an experience that actually happened. I know this actually happened. It's a knowing that this is not just a dream. You're actually experiencing this because you're doing work on the other side now. So when you're doing work on the other side and you something triggers this information, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm in that scene. Like it all comes at one shot. It develops for you like a movie. And you're seeing the characters, you're seeing the beings, or you're seeing whatever it is that you're involved with. It could be, maybe it could even be in a different timeline, but it's lucid. And it comes back as if you're experiencing it now. Okay, that is also part of knowing. Okay, remembering, for example, messages, that are given to you. Again, it's all part of. It could be in the lucid dreaming, or it could actually be that you were, in a scene on the other side. Let's say in a higher realm, doing work on that other side, and you'll remember the entire message. You'll actually remember it. In other words, it doesn't have to unfold a month later or a week later. You'll actually remember it right then and there. And with that will come, all the images of what you're looking at. So you'll even have, your senses will be stimulated. You'll remember what smells there were, what colors there were, what things felt like, textures, what things tasted like. It just comes right back to you. So again, that is a knowing. It's not that you were dreaming it. It's like there is no question that actually happened. And so this is what we're working for. Okay, so that we can remember all this, because this is your communication with what is actually the truth, with actually those realms that actually are giving you the right information, as opposed to this realm that is, there's a lot of corrupted information. So that it will make you sovereign. so that you don't have to depend on, you know, websites and blog posts and whatnots, gurus. And, you know, there are really good gurus that will teach you. But the point is of a teacher that the teacher has to teach you how to be sovereign. If the teacher is allowing you to learn things so that to keep you coming back and not making and not empowering you, you need to kind of like discern that. Because then the teacher's not really teaching you what you need to know. I mean, the point is to get you empowered. Okay? Now, information that you get in those realms, again, may be given to you immediately. Like, for example, let's say I'm asked a question, and sometimes that happens where I'm asked a question, and there's no way that Ari knows that answer. There is no way, because Ari is here in physical form in third-dimensional reality. But because I am trying to connect with Creator continuously, and I do it like the ways that I told you. You know, I will either keep that heart space, I will be in that heart space as much as I can without, you know, hopefully getting distracted, or I create that heart space or that connection by doing the Kadosh mantras, because that's what works for me. So when I'm in that space continuously, then I can go and say, okay, I'm going to connect to my higher self, or I'm going to connect to Divine Creator immediately. And I will be there, and it could come immediately. Or I'll just be there for a moment and I'll say something. Just give me a moment. And I'll get the answer, and then I reveal it. And it's not something that comes from my head. It's not something that I can possibly have in my intellect. It comes directly from Source, or from a higher vibratory being that I might be working with, or my direct, you know, higher self, because it's directly, you know, connected directly with Source itself. So it's just downloaded to me. So that's an immediate, you know, information that will come to you immediately, and you know for a fact that it's the truth. There's no questioning. The other thing is that you will get an information where it unfolds later on. So you might be again maybe in meditation, or you're just going about your day, but you're connected continuously, and you'll get a download that you're not even aware that you got a download, you know, or just information that is just sitting there like a time capsule, and it's released to you when you need it. So information will be given to you on a need-to-know basis. When you need to know that information for your own good, for your highest good, that information will be released to you so that you now know it, okay, because you need that information now for whatever reason. Okay, maybe it's for part of your mission. Maybe you're talking to someone and you're trying to address these issues of world. Hey, pay attention to what's going on in the world, or whatever. The person asks you a question, and you did not know before that moment how to answer it, but now you know how to answer it because that little time release capsule of information was given to you at this moment so that you can address that issue. Does that all make sense to you guys? Because I may be rambling, but this is exactly the way it usually works. Okay? I know so many people that this is exactly the way it works when they're getting information from the higher realms. All right? A lot of it sometimes is given to you this way in a little time release capsule, shall we say, to protect you, because the information is extremely refined. It's very, very high. Maybe it's high teachings or high, information that just comes from those realms of course, illumined truth that it's not released beforehand because it might be a detriment to you. It might not be that you may not be able to handle it at that moment, or it could be something that could interfere with your mission, for example. Because remember that we're in a fallen realm, we're in a dark realm here, and we are in a spiritual war at this point. And we, our thoughts and our dreams and all of that is scanned by these forces, and we just want to make sure that, when they give you the information, that it's only when you need it, and only at the amount, in the amount that you need it, to be able to answer a question, to be able to answer a doubt, or to be able to use that information for your next level. okay, wherever it is that you need to go next. Communication with the higher realms, for example, will come in different ways so that you understand how to identify it. It can come in, for example, as an inspiration, where you're getting ideas and feelings that inspire you, to make you creative, that allow you to, have a desire to write a book, maybe, to compose music, maybe, to do something that will, edify others, to create beauty in the world, whatever that might be. It's an inspiration. That comes from the divine realms. So that kind of communication comes that way as well, that in the form of inspiration. Or it could come in what we call with direct information. For example, it will, again, come in as a download. And a download, what that looks like, what is a download? A download is, for example, like, you would download software, okay, the way you would download a movie on YouTube. Whatever that looks like in your computer, that's the best thing that I can, make reference to so that you understand what that is. You're actually downloading. And it's packets of information. They're whole. They're complete. The package is complete, just like the software might be complete. It just downloaded complete, and there's no way that sometimes you can make sense of what is just downloaded, because you may not even know you got a download. But again, and it could be revealed immediately, or it could be revealed, softly and gently, or that you've got the information and it's in you. You just know it. Again, you know it. But it takes a little time sometimes to put it into words, because it comes from it's coming from the highest realms, from the divine, and then you've got to use your skills of connecting your brain and making sense out of that. So you've got to be able to put it into words, and sometimes that takes a little time. And so when sometimes again, I'm asked a question and I don't know the answer, but I'm tapping into the highest divine realm there. I'm getting the information. It's downloaded and it's coming in, and I'll hesitate a little because I'm trying to formulate, okay, how do I communicate this in language? Okay, in a language that is human. Because if I was in maybe telepathic and you're telepathic, then we can communicate telepathically and it's done, and you'll understand it, because it's all energy and it's all vibration, it's all packets of light. But if I'm communicating it in language, and then sometimes I have to back off a little bit and say, okay, well, what's the best, how do I communicate this feeling, this expression? How do I put that in language? And sometimes it's really hard because there's no words that will express what I'm trying to communicate, and sometimes it's hard. So that's a download, and then of course you will be communicated with telepathically, and that you'll get immediately. You'll be a communication. There's no words involved, or you can be communicated with light codes. I mean, these are just codes of light. There's no way of putting words around that. Again, they come in, and then it's going to have to marinate a little bit before it actually turns into something that you can express, whether it's writing or whether it's communicating, with someone else. For example, I'll give you an example. The 2 books that I wrote were downloads of like that. Okay, a lot of the information that was given, it was actually light packets. So what happens is that I have to it's got to sit there and marinate, and then it's like, okay, well, what's the best word to describe this? And so the information comes in at one shot, but the process of getting it out and finding the right words and then revisiting it again, is that the right way to express that? All that is what takes time. It's not the actual communication. It's the developing into a language where everybody understands it and embraces it. The other way it comes in is the symbols. Pictograms, where it comes in, like if you can think of, okay, well, what do hieroglyphics look like? Well, they're symbols of what something else represents, right? Was something represented, by a boat or a reef or something like that. And then all this they're symbolic of something else. So they come in as pictograms. So, for example, with me, I've had incidences where I will be sitting down, and all of a sudden I get a high frequency in my ears. That is not tinnitus, because I kind of know when I'm listening to external communication, and it'll be a very fine, like almost like a very fine whistle, but it's so refined that it's not coming from the exterior. And then all of a sudden, I will experience my crown being extremely agitated, or like active. And then I will actually feel, and I can see it with my physical eyes, like a shaft of light with symbols coming in. Sometimes they're Hebrew letters, sometimes they're Sanskrit, sometimes they're other things, other symbols, and they'll be coming into my crown chakra. Okay, I have had that experience many times. And then from there, a knowing develops, information that I didn't know before. And it's sometimes accelerated, because the time capsules are, it's not going to be gently released, but I need to know the information like ASAP, so it's just given to me in one shot. Now I've got to figure out, okay, well, how do I communicate that? Okay, so that's what communication with the higher realms will look like, so that you can recognize it when it happens to you, if it hasn't happened to you already. So the purpose of these experiences with the higher realms and these communications with the higher realms is to usually teach you, to teach you something, to get you to your next level, or to empower you so that you can accomplish your mission, or whatever that mission might be, okay, or so that you can teach others. And sometimes it's both, that it's for you and to teach others, because there's no way you can teach others unless you've embraced that information. How can you teach others if it's not part of your experience, right? And also to allow you to compare that knowing that you have with what others, with what you're witnessing outside in the world. So you've got this knowing, and now you're experiencing in your world, and you're validating. Okay, yeah, it's definitely a knowing. I'm validating it. I see it in the world. I see it. It's manifesting. I see it. It's a knowing. I knew it. I just knew it. Oh, how did you just know it? Well, you knew it because it's part of it's either part of your soul memory, or you've been given this information at this time for you to know for a reason. It also allows you to get validation with others that are also experiencing this. Many others are also having experiences on the other side, in their light bodies. Sometimes, they're going and meeting in conclaves or meetings or things like that, and so you're sharing it and you're validating. Also, like, gosh, I remember going to the other side. I remember that scene, which has happened to me, oh my gosh, so many times. I remember it's like the scene unfolds before my eyes, like I'm brushing my teeth, and all of a sudden, boom, the whole scene unfolds before me. It's like, oh my God, that's right, I was there last night. Oh my gosh. And then all of a sudden, like maybe during the week or something, I'll be talking to somebody, and they'll reveal something, and they were in that scene too. So they're experiencing the exact same thing. So it's validation that actually happened. It wasn't just a dream, that we're having a collective dream. It's actually information, because we're actually carrying the information as well. And a lot of it will be very, very, very vivid in your mind, or in your memory. Not your mind, but it's actually a memory. It's a knowing, and each of you can actually share the exact same experience. Let's see here. Sometimes you'll experience a one-on-one meeting with a higher vibratory being. Okay, so that's one of the reasons that you're being communicated with, or being taken to the other side, and you're being brought back with that memory. Okay, so you're experiencing it, and you're in the presence of maybe, again, an ultra-terrestrial being, or an archangel, or a master, or something like that, and you're actually having audience with this being. So that being is actually instructing you personally. And so what you're doing at that point is you're actually in their energetic, you're in their presence, so you're picking up their energetic signature. And that is your knowing, okay, because you're experiencing this. You may not even remember it until it's triggered and it becomes that memory again, but that's what's happening. You're in you're in the presence of their energetic signature. You're witnessing their demeanor. You're witnessing how they express themselves, how they communicate messages, how they impart the information to you. So you're picking up the tone of how their messages are. And so when you are, reading a message that has been channeled by that being, let's say, you will know whether it's real or not, because you have firsthand experience through your knowing and your memory that will be given to you, because you will have memory. The more you do this, the more you'll be able to have memory. And when you come out of a sleep, I strongly suggest that you guys all have next to your nightstand, if you have a nightstand or anywhere that you can put it, a little, maybe a tablet, little, what do you call those little, like a writing pad with a pencil or a pen. So as soon as you wake up in the morning or in the middle of the night, that you can, if you have a recollection of what just happened, you write it down so that you don't forget it in the morning. Just write it down, because that's how you're going to be exercising also your memory of what is happening on the other side, because you're very busy on the other side, believe it or not. You really are. The point is to try to remember these things, because then it's a lot easier than to impart all the information, not only for yourself, because, again, you need it for yourself, and then you can then speak, with authority when you're saying to somebody else, no, that was not Michael. No, that is not Michael. That is not, Jesus. That was not Mary. I've had audience with Mary. I know what Mary sounds like. That's not Mary's signature, her energy signature. Okay? Now you can tell for a fact that's how you discern, because you had direct experience. Okay? So you'll be able to, from now on, tell the difference between, an imposter, and somebody that is giving the truisms with the disinformation. You'll be able to pick that up immediately, because Michael doesn't speak that way. That's not Michael's energy signature at all. So that, okay, you can expect that there's some little bit of disinformation in there for a reason. Discernment, I want to go over that real quick, as quick as I possibly can, because, again, we're in this realm, and we have to be extremely discerning. So it takes experience, guys. Okay, you need to have experience with those realms of truth so that you can, be able to maneuver through this world unscathed. Okay, not being suckered in to the plethora of disinformation that is out there from all well-meaning people. I'm not saying that people are really, doing it on purpose. A lot of the people disseminating this stuff, they're really well-meaning. They're really thinking that they're really doing a good job and they're being of service. But if they're not connecting directly to Source Creator, they're not going to be getting the right information. That's number one. Number two, then why do you need to get information from anyone if you're doing it on your own? See, that's the point. The point is that you really, really don't need to get information from anyone. You just go directly to the Creator or to those higher realms and get it from those higher beings that are in service to Creator. So, again, it takes direct experience to do that. So the way you do that is obviously through direct communication with Source Creator, period. There's no other way to do that. And again, I share in the, I believe it was Spiritual Warfare and the Art of Deception book, I share the analogy that, to be able to detect a counterfeit bill, okay, you can use all kinds of techniques and apparatuses and all kinds of things, gadgets, to be able to find ways to detect a counterfeit. And then the counterfeiters, of course, are very sharp, and shrewd, just like the dark forces are, and they're going to change their tactics all the time, because, or else they wouldn't be in business, right? So they have to be. They have to be ahead of the game all the time. And you can't come up with a new gadget fast enough to be able to detect and get all the counterfeits off the street. So you got to figure out a way to be able to detect these counterfeits. It doesn't matter what the the culprits do or the bad guys do. You're going to be on top of that. And the only way to do that is to actually know what a real bill looks like. There's really no other way. What does a real bill look like? How is a real bill made? What makes that bill the real bill? What is in it? Okay. Once you know what the real bill looks like, what makes it would make, what's the makeup of it? What are the hidden things in it? Maybe you can even create a real bill by yourself. Well, once you have experience with the real bill, there's nothing else that can fool you ever, because nothing else will match to it. Okay, that counterfeiter has got to be able to actually have the actual paper, the identical paper, the actual ink, the actual the watermarks that even the people that are making the bills probably don't even know about. These are all the things that are foolproof because if you know it, then nobody else can fool you anymore. And that comes again with experiencing Creator and tapping into the wisdom and the mind and the heart of Creator. When you're able to do that and you're in that tiny holy of holy space continuously and being in prayer mode continuously and coming from awe and being humble and coming in as an empty vessel waiting to be filled and doing all those things that we've gone through again and again in several of the teleconferences different calls, then you put all this stuff together and you're doing it and practicing, you will be that, and you will be there immediately. Every time you call attention to, I'm going to connect, I'm going to be in connection mode continuously throughout my day, nothing can fool you guys. Nothing can fool you. It's the same thing as when you get information from those realms, when you're in that space of divine Creator, the vibration is so high, the frequency is so high that anything that is presented to you in this realm that is not coming from that is probably incorrect. If it doesn't match, it's probably you can just say, you know what? Let me just check with my knowing, and that means you're going directly to Creator, getting that download, and coming with the information. You're going, oh, you know what? It doesn't jive. It's not in alignment. It's not in alignment with the divine blueprint. It's not in alignment with the wisdom that I'm getting directly from Source. And then you can step away from that. Does that make sense what I'm saying to you all?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. But again, if you want to be in that mode all the time, you've got to practice. And that's why this path takes work. You don't get it by osmosis. Somebody doesn't grant you entrance into this. You've got to work at it, which includes, of course, coming back to the first conference call, includes all the time being very, very vigilant of your thoughts, of your emotions, of your actions, of your speech. All that takes work. It's a work in progress, but we've got to take control of this now because, again, time is shortening on us. I mean, we've got to be aware that we're at crunch time, and we really need to get to that point where our vibration is to the highest potential, so that we can very readily communicate into those realms and get our direct instructions and guidance from there. And once we're there all the time, guys, then we're in that peace, right? We're in that that peace that surpasses all human understanding, that nothing can shake us. It doesn't matter if an atomic bomb blows right next to us, nothing will shake us. Nothing will happen to us. Not one hair in our heads will be moved. This is the truth. Okay? You've got to embrace that this is the truth, because you're in that inner peace. You're one with, and what can possibly happen that you move on, that you go actually and you're one with Creator? Well, isn't that great? Isn't that great? So there's really nothing to be fearful of, period. Because you're in that space. where everything is possible, where you're protected continuously. And then, from here, we're going to go on and then learn how to be able to protect ourselves on top of that, everything else. So discernment takes good judgment. You need to have good judgment. You have to have common sense. You've got to be, obviously, the first thing that has to happen is to have that connection with Prime Creator. That's the first thing that has to happen. And the vibration, you've got to be able to recognize everything that is not in alignment with the divine through the vibration of the message communicated or the person being, coming into your space. You can tell their vibration immediately whether that person is going to be genuine or not, whether that person's message is genuine or not. Okay, because it's got to be in alignment. And on top of that, you get this special bonus, which is this little nudge in your stomach, in your gut. It tells you, gosh, that doesn't feel right. You better learn to trust that, because that's your direct connection with the divine. It's telling you something is not, it's off, it's not in alignment. And it's giving you that nudge in your solar plexus. So trust that. So when something doesn't feel right, it probably isn't right. And so discern it. Non-discernment happens because we're lacking in spiritual confidence. We don't think we're worthy. We think that we are handicapped, that somebody else has to do the work for us. So we go to other people for our truth instead of connecting directly, because, again, we don't think we know how to connect, or we don't think that we deserve to connect. We feel guilty about something, We're hard on ourselves. We're ashamed of something. And remember, God doesn't judge. In all truth, Prime Creator doesn't judge. Prime Creator is experiencing creation just the way it is, fallen and everything, with all its poop and everything. It's experiencing that creation because it has to. It wants to. It wants to know, okay, well, what does it feel to be a criminal? What does it feel to be, a divine, guru? It wants to experience all of it. So in reality, the only one judging is ourselves. That is true. And then we're emotional about why we're not discerning. In other words, we have a vested interest. We are eager. So in our eagerness, we are not discerning because we want an outcome. So then on top of that, we're attached to an outcome. And regardless of how, what our gut is telling us, because we want the outcome so bad, we are not going to discern. So it clouds our judgment. Because we have, a need that needs to be met, and so we're going to go for it, regardless. We're disconnected from source. Of course, that's number one. When we disconnect from source, everything else goes to hell. And we obtain, of course, surrogates for source, which means you're obtaining, you're joining a cult, or a group that channels, entities. You're listening to to whatever newest message from, such and such councils that are being channeled by some whatever. You're going to, workshops by a special teacher that you're admiring, everything but going directly to the source of your, that created you to begin with. And then you have, of course, again, like I said, the attachment to the outcome. So we want it so bad that we're doing what we call selective discernment. You choose what you're willing to discern, and then that which is inconvenient, you kind of sweep under the rug. You're because you're perceiving that the positive results of whatever it is being presented to you outweighs any potential repercussions. So that's because you're selectively choosing what you're going to discern or not. And again, you're in emotion. You have this emotion because you have this potential joy that's going to come out of whatever outcome you're perceiving. That's going to give you, your self-esteem back. It's going to give you your sovereignty back, whatever it is. So you put away the discernment because you want that outcome so badly. And so you discard all the potential risks, and that's what happens. It's a quick fix. And that is like a drug, So discernment is very important, and discernment is not part-time, it's complete, it's whole, it's discernment, period. and you've got to be able to follow through with it, so that if you discern that something is not right, then have the courage to walk away from it, put it away, say no, say, you know what, this is not for me. This is not what I'm getting. And that's pretty much all I have for you all tonight. I'm going to open up the floor now to you all. If you have any questions or any comments or anything that I covered, anything that you've read in any of the two books that you want to have explained to you, go ahead and do so now if you feel up to it. Anyone? Okay, I'm hoping that I'm still on the line. Am I still on the phone? Okay, I just want to make sure. It's like, oh my gosh, did I just get knocked off and I just had a soliloquy? Okay, awesome. Okay. Everybody understanding what I've presented today so far?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Awesome.
Yep.
Thank you so much for feedback.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes.
Every so often, I do need feedback, guys, just so you know. And I know you're in the moment and just listening and absorbing and all that. Sometimes I need feedback just to make sure that I'm connecting with you, just to make sure that, if there's anything that needs clarification, please, if you need to interrupt me, by all means do so. But your energy is really important to me. And, again, thank you so much for being on the call and participating and holding the light and the space for this particular conference call. I think this one is really important. This one is really important, along with the one with connecting to Source, because now you're going to start seeing that they're all little pieces of the puzzle, and you're going to start seeing things forming. You're going to start seeing the actual landscape form before your eyes as we start progressing. Each one builds on the other one. Each one is really important that you keep up with that you do not stop being vigilant of your thoughts and your emotions and your actions and what you speak. Be vigilant of what you're eating. Be vigilant of making sure that you're putting enough water in your body, that you're cleansing your body from toxins. All these things are part of the protocol because they're all helping you get stronger, and being in charge of you, who you are, of your physical and your spiritual and your mental and your emotional, all these bodies. Now you're in control. There's no reason why to let the forces that are on this planet be in control of that anymore. Because you're a divine being. You have every right to be in control of who you are. Okay? And this is your vessel. Your body is your vessel to allow you to do all these wonderful things, all these great things that you came here to do, which you haven't been able to do before because of whatever reason. And I'm letting you know that you can do them. But you have to have the desire to do that, and that desire has to take form in action. You got to take action. And if you need to have a little notebook with you every day and start jotting down all the things that you're not in alignment with. In other words, I got off today. I got in a bad mood today. Like, I'll tell you what. Yesterday, my dog had an accident inside the house. Okay, and my dog is like a horse. She's big. She's a Great Pyrenees. Okay,
oh, no.
And she's gorgeous, but she took a little accident inside the house. That I'm thinking, what is that smell? What is that smell? And I couldn't figure it out. And the funny part is I go inside the room, and I can't find anything, but I know it's there because it reeks, okay? Well, she hid it. She buried it under some paper. Okay? All right? And I was so mad. I was yelling, okay? I go, Addie, how dare you? Why did you do that? I took you out. You didn't do anything. What? And I'm yelling. And then I start laughing because I caught myself doing that, and I'm going, can you believe that? She actually pushed my buttons and got me to start yelling at her, but I caught myself. And I confessed it to Candy. Candy, are you on the call? I don't know if she's muted. She might be on the call. I don't know. She might not be. But I confessed it to Candy, and you have to be honest with yourself, okay? And because we are human, we will experience a lot of downfalls, and it's those moments that, it's like you got to be honest with yourself and say, you know what, I really screwed up today.
I think she was reminding you to get ready for this call.
Yeah, well, you know what, it's very possible, but I just wanted to understand that, I'm in human form.
The fact that she hit it, though, my God, that's funny.
It's hilarious, but it wasn't funny when I was experiencing it.
I know.
It was just horrible. And the funny part is that I put a glove on to pick up the mess, and then, of course, the hand that doesn't have the glove is the one that actually touches the mess. And then that really put me off the roof. Like, I was really cursing at that point. But I caught myself, and I go, okay, I won't do this again. I'll make sure that it's like, okay, it's a lesson. It's a lesson. They're all lessons. And to be able to embrace that and say, you know what, thank you for the lesson, because now I can talk about it and say, you know what, that happened to me yesterday. And I jotted it down. I confessed it to a friend of mine, and there you go. You know, we all have.
God, my dog only weighs 5 pounds.
Oh, well, no. This one weighs like 120 pounds, mine. But it's amazing. But anyway, that's what you need to do. You know, just make sure that you're being very attentive of those moments where you're out of alignment, where you're not, you know, doing your best work. And that is obviously to be very, very, always be, you know, neutral in your emotion, which I wasn't, of course. And, or the best one, of course, is to be in a loving space or a space of joy. But I was quickly able to correct it, and I did go to the space of joy because I started laughing. You know, I went like, oh, there we go. Okay. So that's all I have for you all. Anything else that you guys want to share, say, or ask for anything? Then we'll call it a night.
I love you so much. My headache is completely gone. Somebody else had a
hallelujah
headache,
to
too.
That. And there you go. And remember, I will always say amen and hallelujah every so often.
Somebody else had a headache on the phone. Is yours gone, too?
Yes, it is.
Is it really?
All right.
Very awesome. Very awesome. Well, I hope that you all, you know, I feel that this was a really good conference call today. For some reason, I feel fulfilled, because remember that when I'm expressing this to you, I'm not only communicating it to you, I'm communicating it to myself too. So I'm also getting a healing when I do that. So my heart is full.
Thank you so much.
Thank you too. God bless you all. I will put whatever exercises, I will put them on the group. And please do me a favor if you can. If you feel that you are being touched, that you're being healed, that you're learning something and it's changing your life, let others know about this as well, you know, because the bigger that we are, the more that we are empowered, and we can all do this together and change ourselves, we can change others as well and help the world as well. So if you can communicate to others that you feel might benefit, let them know about it.
Ari?
Yeah.
Do they have to have read one of the books?
No.
Because I have a friend that would like to do it, but she hasn't read your book.
It's okay. It's like I said, I'm going baby steps.
Okay.
Okay?
And now that I'm having a little bit of problems with PayPal, I might pay for it for the first month. I had the funniest thing happen to me on PayPal. I send this man in Miami money once in a while, and he told me he had a little upheaval with his lady next door, and she's Cuban, and all he heard was Policia. And so I said to him, be nice to your Cuban neighbors. And then I got a letter from Facebook asking me if I was sending money overseas illegally.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, you just have to be careful. You know, just be careful. But yeah, to answer your question is no, you don't have to have you don't have to have read the books, because I'm pretty much covering everything. I'm pretty much taking the material from Getting Back to Source, because that's what's going to get us to be in that space when the stuff starts going south on us and we start seeing the world as we know it unravel, that we need to have all that information from that book and beyond that. You know, many of you might have, you know, maybe your own techniques that you'd like to share as well at some point, that you can also feel free to also post things in the group page as well for the benefit of everyone. Okay, I just want you to know that that's a place for us to share stuff. All right, and so everything will be taken out from Getting Back to Source, with the exception today, and every so often I'll take something out from Spiritual Warfare, because it's important. Discernment was on the first book of Spiritual Warfare, but it's something that we need to know about today. And if you didn't read Spiritual Warfare, you wouldn't get that information. So I'm going to pick stuff up from both books and from other sources so that we can all grow from this. Okay? Does that make sense?
Great.
All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. God bless you. Love you all. And keep doing your exercises. Practice, 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 okay?
Okay.
Yes.
Thank
See you next week. Love you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.